the world was a different place. Giant sheets of ice, miles thick, covered much of the Earth. In North America, ice stretched down past the Great Lakes. In Europe, it buried Scandinavia and Britain. The air was colder, drier. Sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, connecting lands that are now separated by oceans. This was the Pleistocene, an epoch we call the Ice Age. And in this brutal, unforgiving world, a strange, upright ape was trying to make a living. An animal with no claws, no fangs to speak of, and no thick fur coat. Us, humans. The question is a simple one. How did we survive? How did our ancestors, with so little going for them physically, endure a world of mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and relentless cold? It seems impossible. Other human-like species, like the Neanderthals, were bigger, stronger, and better adapted to the cold. But they are gone. We are here. The answer isn't one single thing. It wasn't a secret weapon or a lucky break. Our survival was a messy, complicated process. It was a combination of how our bodies changed, the things we learned to make, and most importantly, how we worked together. It was a story of evolution, not just of bone and muscle, but of mind and culture. Let's start with the hardware we were born with, our bodies. We often think of ourselves as fragile, and in many ways we are. But our ancestors had a few key biological advantages that were perfectly suited for the challenges of the Ice Age. First, and most obviously, was the brain. Over a couple of million years, the human brain had been growing at a remarkable rate. This wasn't just about being smarter in an academic sense. This big brain gave us the ability to think abstractly. We could plan for the future, we could remember the past, we could imagine things that weren't right in front of us. Think about what that means for survival. A deer lives in the moment, it smells a predator, it runs. It sees grass, it eats. An early human could see a set of tracks and think, a herd of bison passed this way yesterday. They were heading toward the river. If we follow the river downstream, we might be able to ambush them tomorrow. That's a level of planning that is incredibly powerful. It's the ability to link cause and effect over time and distance. This brain also allowed for complex problem solving. A broken spear wasn't just a broken spear. It was a problem with a potential solution. Maybe the stone point was wrong. Maybe the wood was too brittle. Maybe the sinew used to bind it wasn't strong enough. Our minds could troubleshoot. We could experiment. We could learn from failure and try a new way. This constant cycle of trial and error, powered by a curious and analytical brain, was a driving force of our technological progress. Another key biological trait was one we inherited from our much earlier ancestors walking on two legs. Bipedalism might seem like a small thing, but it was revolutionary. It freed our hands. An animal on four legs has to use its front limbs for walking. We didn't. Our hands were free to carry things. We could carry tools, we could carry food back to a camp, we could carry our children, keeping them safe while moving across the landscape. Being upright also made us incredibly efficient long-distance travelers. We aren't fast sprinters. A cheetah or a gazelle would leave us in the dust, but humans are the marathon runners of the animal kingdom. Our long legs, our swinging arms, the way our bodies are built, it all adds up to remarkable endurance. We could follow migrating herds for days, waiting for the right moment to strike. And we had a secret weapon for this kind of endurance hunting, sweating. Most furry animals have to pant to cool down. It's not very efficient, and they can't do it while running at full speed. We can. Our mostly hairless bodies are covered in sweat glands. As we run, we sweat, and that sweat evaporates, cooling us down. This meant we could run an animal to death. In a long chase, a big, furry animal would eventually overheat and collapse from exhaustion. We could just keep going. This is called persistence hunting, and it was a way for us to kill animals much larger and faster than ourselves, even before we had powerful projectile weapons. Our bodies were also incredibly adaptable in their diet. We are omnivores. This was a huge advantage in the unstable climate of the Ice Age. Some animals are specialists. The saber-toothed cat was built to hunt large, slow-moving prey. When those animals disappeared, the cat was in trouble, but humans could eat almost anything. If the big game was scarce, we could hunt smaller animals. We could fish, we could gather roots, berries, and nuts. When we reached coastlines, we learned to harvest shellfish. This dietary flexibility meant that no single environmental change was likely to wipe us out. We could always find something to eat. We were generalists in a world that punished specialists. But biology alone wasn't enough. A big brain is useless without knowledge. Capable hands are useless without tools to hold. Our biological evolution went hand in hand with our cultural and technological evolution. We didn't just adapt to the environment, we started to shape it to our needs. The first and perhaps most important technology we harnessed was fire. It's hard to overstate how much fire changed the game for us. It was a complete revolution. First, fire provides warmth. In a world of ice and freezing winds, this is the difference between life and death. With fire, we could survive the cold nights. We could push into colder, more northern territories that would have been impossible to inhabit otherwise. Fire created a bubble of warmth and safety in a hostile world. Second, fire cooks food. Cooking does more than just make food taste better, it makes it safer by killing parasites and bacteria. More importantly, it makes food easier to digest. Cooking breaks down tough fibers in meat and plants, unlocking calories that our stomachs couldn't otherwise access. This meant we got more energy from the same amount of food. Many scientists believe this surplus of energy from cooked food is what fueled the continued growth of our large, energy-hungry brains. Third, fire provides light. It pushed back the darkness. This extended our usable day. Instead of everything stopping at sunset, we could continue to work. We could make and repair tools. We could plan for the next day's hunt, and crucially, we could socialize. The campfire became the center of human society. It was where stories were told, knowledge was passed down, and social bonds were strengthened. Finally, fire offered protection. A wall of flames is a powerful deterrent to predators. A group of humans sleeping around a fire was much safer from a prowling cave lion or a pack of hyenas. The fire was a shield. Beyond fire, our next great technological leap was in the making of tools. We call it the Stone Age for a reason. Stone was the primary material for making things that could cut, scrape, and pierce. And just as our brains evolved, so did our tools. The earliest tools were very simple. Just a rock smashed against another rock to create a sharp edge. These were good for basic tasks like cracking bones to get at the marrow or cutting meat from a carcass. But over time, our toolkits became more and more sophisticated. We developed things like the hand axe. This wasn't just a random sharp rock, it was a symmetrical teardrop-shaped tool, carefully crafted to fit in the hand. It was the Swiss Army knife of the Pleistocene. You could use it to butcher an animal, dig for roots, or chop wood. Making one required planning and skill. You had to have a mental image of the final product in your mind before you started chipping away at the stone. Later, we learned new techniques. We developed what's called the prepared core technique, where a large stone was carefully shaped so that a single final strike would produce a perfect flake that was already sharp and ready to use as a knife or spear point. This was efficient. It showed an even deeper understanding of the material and a greater ability to plan ahead. And then, with the arrival of modern humans, Homo sapiens, the toolkit exploded in complexity and elegance. We created long, slender blades, we made specialized tools for specific tasks, scrapers for cleaning animal hides, burins for engraving bone and antler, and sharp points for spears and arrows. We started using other materials like bone, antler, and ivory to create things like needles, harpoons, and spear throwers. The spear thrower, or atlatl, was a game changer. It was basically a stick with a hook on the end that acted as a lever. By using an atlatl, a hunter could throw a spear much faster, farther, and with more force than by hand alone. This meant we could hunt large, dangerous animals from a safer distance. It was a massive technological advantage. The invention of the bone needle was just as revolutionary, though it sounds more mundane. With needles, we could sew, we could take those animal hides we were scraping and stitch them together to make tailored, multi-layered clothing. We could make boots, pants, parkas, and hats. We were no longer just draping ourselves in skins. We were creating our own artificial fur coats. This ability to make effective clothing was absolutely critical for surviving the harsh winters of the Ice Age. It was our portable, personal shelter. We also built better shelters. While we certainly used caves when they were available, we didn't just live in them. We built structures. In some parts of Ice Age Europe, archaeologists have found the remains of huts constructed from mammoth bones, with hides stretched over the frame. These were complex, sturdy dwellings designed to withstand the brutal winds of the open steppe. They show a high degree of planning and cooperative effort. This brings us to what might be the single most important factor in our survival, our social structure. A lone human in the Ice Age was a dead human. Our strength was never in our individual bodies. It was in the group. We are intensely social creatures, and this social nature was our superpower. Vocal cooperation was key. Think about hunting a woolly mammoth. A mammoth was a 12-ton beast with enormous tusks and a bad temper. You could not kill one with a spear by yourself. It was suicide. But a group of 10 or 15 hunters working together. That was a different story. They could use their collective intelligence to plan the hunt. They could use the landscape to their advantage, driving the animal into a bog or off a cliff. They could coordinate their attacks, creating distractions and striking from multiple angles. A successful mammoth hunt required communication, trust, and a shared goal. The reward was enormous, thousands of pounds of meat, fat, hide, and bone, enough to feed the entire group for weeks. Language was the software that made this cooperation possible. While we don't know exactly when complex grammatical language emerged, it was clearly in place by the time modern humans were spreading across the globe. Language allows us to share complex ideas with precision. It's not just Denger. There's a lion hiding in those rocks by the river. We should go the other way. It's not just hunt. It's tomorrow we will go to the valley where the reindeer cross the river. You and I will hide behind the ridge, and the others will drive them toward us. Where language also allows for the transfer of knowledge across generations. This is cultural evolution. An individual animal has to learn everything through its own experience, but with language, an elder could teach a child. They could pass out a mental map of the territory, where to find water in a dry season, which plants are good to eat and which are poison, how to read the clouds to predict a storm. They could teach them how to make a stone tool, how to track an animal, how to start a fire. This meant that knowledge was cumulative. Each generation didn't have to start from scratch. They could build on the discoveries of the generations that came before them. This process is much faster than biological evolution. It allowed us to adapt to new challenges and new environments with incredible speed. Our social groups were also characterized by sharing. In a hunter-gatherer society, the food brought back from a hunt or a gathering trip was shared throughout the group. This was a form of social insurance. The hunter who was successful today might be unlucky tomorrow. The person who found a patch of edible roots would share with the person who found nothing. This sharing ensured that everyone had a better chance of eating, and it strengthened the bonds that held the group together. We also took care of each other. The fossil record shows evidence of early humans who survived for years with debilitating injuries. There are skeletons of individuals with healed, broken bones, or elderly individuals who had lost all their teeth and would have been unable to chew tough food. They couldn't have survived on their own. The only way they lived is if someone else in their group fed them, protected them, and cared for them. This wasn't just about sentimentality, it was practical. An old person, even one who couldn't hunt anymore, was a living library of knowledge and experience. Keeping them alive meant keeping their wisdom within the group. Our social networks likely extended beyond our own small band. And evidence from archaeology suggests that different groups interacted with each other. We find stone tools made from a type of rock that is only found hundreds of miles away. We find seashells in sites that are deep inland. This suggests trade or at least long-distance travel and exchange. These networks would have been incredibly important. They would have allowed for the exchange of goods, information, and also marriage partners, preventing inbreeding. In times of local hardship, like a drought or the disappearance of a key animal herd, these connections to other groups might have been a lifeline. So, what did this all look like? How did these different elements, biology, technology, and society, come together in the daily life of an Ice Age human? Imagine a small group, maybe 30 or 40 people, living on the vast, treeless steppe of Ice Age Europe. Their lives are tied to the seasons and the movements of the great herds of reindeer, bison, and horses. They are nomads, but they don't wander aimlessly. They have a deep, intimate knowledge of their territory, a mental map that spans hundreds of square miles. They know the best places to camp in different seasons, where to find flint for their tools, where the animals will be. Their clothing is a masterpiece of Stone Age engineering. They wear layered outfits of hide and fur, expertly stitched with bone needles and sinew thread. Their boots are insulated with dried grass. This clothing allows them to function in sub-zero temperatures. Their camp is a collection of huts made from animal hides stretched over a frame of wood or mammoth bones. In the center of the camp, a fire is always burning. It's the social and economic heart of the group. Around it, people are working. A man is carefully chipping at a piece of flint, striking off sharp flakes that will become the points for a new set of spears. A woman is using a stone scraper to clean a reindeer hide, preparing it to be made into a child's coat. Children are playing nearby, but their play is also a form of learning. They are mimicking the actions of the adults, learning the skills they will need to survive. An elder is telling a story that might contain vital information about the world, wrapped in a myth about animal spirits and ancient heroes. A hunting party returns. They were successful today. They have brought back a large horse. The mood in the camp is celebratory. The animal is butchered with stone knives. Nothing is wasted. The meat will be eaten, some of it cooked fresh over the fire, some of it dried and stored for later. The hide will be used for clothing or shelter, the bones will be cracked for their marrow, and some will be carved into tools like needles and awls. The sinews will be used as thread or cordage. This was the rhythm of life. It was a hard life, full of danger and uncertainty. But it was not a life of constant miserable struggle. There was time for art, for music, for family. In caves across Europe, our ancestors crawled deep into the earth to paint stunning images of the animals they lived with: horses, bison, mammoths, and lions. These paintings weren't just decoration, they were a sign of a complex symbolic mind. A mind that was not just concerned with survival, but with meaning. They were trying to understand their world and their place in it. This is how we survived. We didn't overpower the Ice Age world with brute strength. We outthought it. We outcooperated it. Our bodies gave us a good starting point, a big brain, versatile hands, and the endurance to cover vast distances. Our technology acted as a force multiplier. Fire gave us warmth and better food. Tools gave us claws and teeth of stone. Clothing and shelter let us create our own microclimates. But it was our social nature that bound it all together. Like, the ability to communicate, to cooperate, to share knowledge, and to care for one another was our ultimate adaptation. It allowed a small, physically unimpressive ape to not just survive in one of the harshest climates imaginable, but to thrive and spread across the entire planet. The Ice Age was a brutal filter. It weeded out species that couldn't adapt. And we passed the test, not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we were the most creative, the most cooperative, and the most adaptable species on the planet. The legacy of those Ice Age survivors is written in our DNA, in our societies, and in the very human impulse to solve problems together.